I earlier spoke to Dr. Richard Munang, Climate Change Program Coordinator at the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, on the rapidly changing weather patterns, and I began by asking him why East and Horn of Africa region is flooding and why the floods are so bad.
At the moment is as a result of what is called the Indian Ocean dipole. And this is actually a scientific phenomenon which comes as a result of the warming of the Western Indian Ocean. And as a result of that warming, then the water actually gets evaporated and pushed by the strong winds which falls in the inland. But what is even more important is that climate change have been established scientifically to be turbocharging and supercharging these extreme events and making them become the norm.
So is climate change in action?
The reality is that as we're speaking today, the world has actually warmed by 1.1 degree. And it means that we are just about 0.4 degrees away from the 1.5, which is the limit in which if we surpass that, the world will really be under what is called dangerous climate change. But the worst of it is that 20 African countries are warming faster than any other countries in the world. That's the latest scientific.
So I'm very curious because looking at these countries, especially sub-Saharan Africa, they're least contributors in terms of greenhouse emissions, but yet you seem to be bearing the brunt of this.
Absolutely correct. And the reason for that, if you look at the latest figures, Africa is contribution is roughly between 3 to 4%. That's negligible as compared to the entire globe. But Africa is suffering the brunt. And as I said, 20 African countries are warming faster than the entire globe. But the reason for Africa's vulnerability, suffering as a result of the warming planet, which they've contributed at least to this, is as a result of low levels of socioeconomic development. Because if you look across the continent, food insecurity, 257 million African citizens going to bed hungry. You look at energy poverty, 620 million citizens energy impoverished. So the low levels of economic development are actually making the continent more vulnerable in that if there is a drought or a flood, these low levels of socioeconomic development that are affecting millions across the continent makes it very difficult for them to be able not only to get themselves out of harm's way as a result of these floods that we are seeing, but at the same time, because they have no alternative, they are actually going to be just at the forefront of these challenges that we're seeing. But more importantly, the world needs to reduce emission each and every year for the next 10 years by 7.6%. But when you bring it back to the continent, if your house is on fire, you cannot close your eyes to facts. That's an African proverb which says, if you close your eyes to facts, you will learn through accidents. The question then is, with this, which has become the new normal, what can we then do? Which, if you take the case of floods, after floods, you will have droughts, and there will be lack of water. Can we then start to look how we can make water harvesting become a national culture, which I think is quite very, very crucial.